So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! The Detroit Lions have finally done it. After 32 years of waiting, after never having hosted a playoff game at Ford Field in the building's history, the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Rams come full circle as in the wild card round, the 12-5 Detroit Lions take out the 10-7 Los Angeles Rams by a score of 24-23. In arguably the most emotional game in Detroit Lions history, in a very full circle moment from hosting their first playoff game to winning their first playoff game in 32 years to doing it against the quarterback that gave everything he had for the Lions for the first 12 seasons of his career. It was a full circle playoff moment. The Detroit Lions won their first playoff game in a very, very long time in emotional fashion, and they are now on to host the second round of the playoffs as they welcome in the fourth-seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So today, we're going to take a look at this game. We're going to take a look at how it started, how it finished. We're going to take a look at really just overall the great plays, the great moments, the great game that was played, and talk about how well this game was for the Detroit Lions. So with that being said, let's kick it off with just the overall score of the game quarter by quarter. The Detroit Lions started out incredibly hot on the day as they opened with a 10-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. Now, the Rams went right back down the field right after the Lions went 11 plays, 69 yards, but had to settle for a field goal with a red zone issue. It was a big issue for the entire day for the Rams. They got to the red zone pretty easily. They just couldn't finish the plays. So the Lions came back up 7-3, and they went on a 5-play, 75-yard touchdown, back-to-back 75-yard touchdown drives to open the day with a score by Jahmyr Gibbs. The Rams answered with a huge play to Puka Nacua, and the Lions answered right back. 11 plays, 75 yards for the third consecutive drive on the day to open the game to take a 21-10 lead. The Rams would drive down 6 plays, 75 yards again, and match the Lions to go to a 21-17 at the half. The Detroit Lions would punt, and then the Rams would take 2 plays and take it into the half, with the Lions winning this game 21-17 at the half. There was fireworks the whole time. There was very little defense being played, and this was shaping up to be the highest scoring game of Wild Card Weekend. A second half came around, and the Lions defense got a little bit tougher. They forced the Rams to punt early, and then the Lions drove down and got a field goal to make it a touchdown game, a 7-point game, 24-7. The Rams answered with their very own field goal, 10 plays, 66 yards to put it back to 4 points. The Lions would punt. The Rams would bring it back within 1 point with their 13-play, 79-yard drive ending in a field goal. Again, the red zone woes really hurting the Rams on both these field goal possessions. The two teams would exchange punts, and the Detroit Lions would go 7 plays, 23 yards, take the last 4 minutes and 7 seconds off the clock, and they would end the game as the victors at Ford Field. They ended up beating Matthew Stafford in his homecoming game. Again, it was a super emotional matchup. It was a game that obviously Ford Field was very involved in, a game that the city was very involved in, and it was very, very incredibly stressful. Starting off with the Detroit Lions statistics, Jared Goff was phenomenal. I can really only think of one play where I thought Jared Goff really played poorly, and that was the weird lateral play with Aaron Donald getting pressure. Jared Goff tried to lateral it to Brock Wright and just didn't get anything on the ball. It was a really bad play, really bad decision. But other than that, Jared Goff was nearly flawless. 22 of 27, 277 yards and a touchdown. Did take 3 sacks, but had a quarterback rating of 121.8. David Montgomery came out swinging with 14 carries on 57 yards, 4.1 yards per carry and a touchdown, with Jahmyr Gibbs getting 8 carries for 25 yards and a touchdown as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a great day, 7 receptions, 110 yards, no receiving touchdown through the air, but had a great day. and of course had the game-winning reception and the game-winning first down conversion. Josh Reynolds came out the gates really hot. I think had 4 receptions for 75 yards on the first 2 drives, ended with 5 out for 80, long of 33 on 7 targets. Jahmyr Gibbs had 4 receptions for 43 yards. Jameson Williams had a nice first down grab. Sam Laporta had a touchdown on 4th down despite being limited with his hyperextended knee. And of course, David Montgomery had one of the most crucial first down plays in the entire game with 1 reception for 11 yards. It was the play right before Amon-Ra's first down conversion to ice the game. Without that, the Lions are punting the ball back to the Rams with a couple minutes left, and that game could go very differently. So David Montgomery not only had a touchdown to open the game, but it probably had the biggest first down conversion on the game in its entirety. Again, Jared Goff had that 1 fumble, but Brock Wright was able to recover, and I think the Lions were actually able to convert off of that. Alex Anzalone led the team in tackles with 8 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. CJ Gardner-Johnson had 7, as did Brian Branch with a pass defended. Cam Sutton and Kirby Joseph also had passes defended in this game, while Lee McNeil had 1 quarterback hit. Aiden Hutchinson ended the game with 2 sacks on the day, which is really obviously impressive. He has 7 sacks over his last 3 games. He has 7 sacks. He has been playing at a completely different level for the Detroit Lions. As a team, they had 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and of course, 3 passes defended. They hit the quarterback 7 times, and Aiden Hutchinson by himself had 10 pressures on the night. Donovan Peoples-Jones had just 1 return for 4 yards, nothing incredible, but Michael Badgley, after all of the kicking woes this year, after all of the problems they've had with the kicking position, Michael Badgley went 3 for 3 on extra points, but also hit a 54-yard, what would eventually turn in to the game-winning field goal for the Detroit Lions. Jack Fox was phenomenal. 3 punts, 150 yards, 3 for 3 down inside the 20. He had the Lions in good field position all night, and it was a great day overall by the Detroit Lions. Now, this game turned into very much what I said the game was going to be going into the night. It was going to be the Puka Nacua. It was going to be the Cooper Kupp show. Is going to be the Matthew Stafford show. But if the Detroit Lions could stop Kyren Williams, if the Detroit Lions could hold the Rams rushing attack to a below average day, or even hold them out of the end zone, that they were going to have a chance to win this game. And Matthew Stafford went 25 for 36, almost 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, Aiden Hutchinson got to him twice, 2 sacks for 10 yards. Kyren Williams actually had a good day, 13 carries for 61 yards, 4.7 a carry, but stayed out of the end zone and unfortunately wasn't actually able to play for most of the 4th quarter. But outside of 2 or 3 big runs, the Detroit Lions on about 10 or 11 of Kyren's 13 carries bottled him up really well. The Rams as a team had 17 carries for 68 yards. Nothing incredible, but certainly not a bad day. Puka Nacua set a rookie postseason record with 9 receptions for 181 yards and a touchdown. Demarcus Robinson was actually the 2nd leading receiver with 3 catches for 44 yards. Tutu Atwell had that 38-yard touchdown. And Cooper Kupp finished the day with 5 receptions, but only for 27 yards. The Detroit Lions were able to keep Cooper Kupp, and they were able to keep Kyren Williams out of the end zone, which I think is a big part as to why they were able to win. On the defensive side of the ball, there wasn't a whole lot of defense for either side. Ernest Jones had 2 sacks, which was actually really impressive. There was no picks. Actually, the Rams didn't touch the football once on defense through the secondary, but they did have 6 quarterback hits as well as 3 sacks on the day. There was no fumble recovery by the Rams. There was no turnover by the Rams. There was no turnovers in the game, and both teams played pretty clean football. The biggest difference, of course, being the red zone productivity from the Detroit Lions, scoring 3 touchdowns to the Rams scoring just 1 touchdown in the red zone. As far as team stats go, it was pretty even the whole time, right? I mean, 23 first downs for the Lions, 22 for the Rams. You have passing first downs almost exactly. Rushing first downs almost exactly. Total plays was exactly the same. The Rams outgained us in yards on the same amount of drives, but we had the exact same amount of plays. The Rams had a better passing day. The Lions had a better rushing day. They had within 5 seconds of time of possession. There was no turnovers. There was almost the same impact for penalties within 2 yards of each other. Again, the biggest difference for this game is the red zone, right? Made versus attempt. The Rams went 0 for 3 in the red zone, and the Lions went 3 for 3 in the red zone. You cannot go 0 for 3 in the red zone and expect to win a playoff game. And for a defense that was really bad at one point in the red zone, for a defense that was allowing over 82% in the red zone, not even 2 full months ago, to go perfect in the red zone this week was very, very impressive by Aaron Glenn. They weren't very good between the 20s, but when they got in the red zone, the Detroit Lions defense tightened up. They forced field goals instead of touchdowns. And that's how they've been winning games for the last month and a half. Their secondary, not very good. Their pass rush, not very good. But they have been able to minimize damage. They have been able to bend an extreme amount without breaking. And they've been able to win games over and over and over again. I know Puka had a great night. I know that Matthew Stafford had a phenomenal day. The Rams were probably the better team on the day for 90% of the game. It was a bad matchup for the Lions, but the biggest impact and the biggest plays came in the red zone where the Detroit Lions forced field goals, and that's why they won. That's why they're hosting the division round, because the Lions were able to capitalize on plays that the Rams did not. So, with all that being said, I think this was the toughest playoff game the Lions could have gotten in week one. Anything outside of the 49ers, obviously, I think this is the toughest matchup the Lions could have had going into wildcard weekend. I think it really helped that they were at home. I think it really helped that there was a couple fluky plays where obviously Stafford fell over his feet for the first sack and pushed them back. There was obviously a couple plays that were just made by the Lions that weren't made by the Rams. But I thought for the most part, these two teams were extremely well matched. They were extremely evenly matched, and they matched up really well against each other. The Lions were able to shut down Aaron Donald on the defensive side of the ball. He wasn't able to wreck the game, and they were able to win this football game. Now, going into next weekend, the Detroit Lions are set to host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the weekend in the division round, potentially to advance to the NFC Championship game. That would be obviously huge for Detroit. And honestly, I think they match up much better versus the Bucs than they did versus the Rams. I think that they can beat the Bucs more convincingly than they did versus the LA Rams. And honestly, I think there's a good chance the Lions go to the NFC Championship game. But with all that being said, we will talk about that a lot more later in the week. For now, we're going to soak up this victory. We're going to take a look at the Rams and the Lions. We're going to just enjoy the wild card victory and get ready for Tampa Bay. And of course, for the rest of the week, we will talk a lot about that upcoming matchup. With all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.